Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today's Saturday, and it's December the 3rd, 2026. Happy New Year, and thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you for coming back. You know, I always say the tide changes so frequently here on these YouTube streets. So you always have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want you to know I sincerely thank you for your support. So feel free to like and to share this video. And don't forget to subscribe. And our video title today is as follows: Two cases, father and daughter charged with incest. I'll provide you with a summary here, and I'll identify some of my sources for you in the description box. And because of the topic today, I want to begin with a warning. Some of the information we're going to be discussing today, it's a bit sensitive, and it could cause some of my viewers to become anxious. Keep in mind, we are only addressing information that's been taken from media reports throughout the state of North Carolina. But still, it's a bit sensitive. So if at any point during this video you become anxious, I want to encourage you to log off. And keep in mind, you could always come back later and pick up where you left off. So our topic today is one that's often whispered in private but avoided at all costs in public, and that's the subject of incest. And in case you don't understand the law, which states clearly that sexual activity or marriage between blood relatives or adoptive relatives is strictly prohibited. That's the law. And ever so often a case is presented in the media, but for some reason that's unclear, people would prefer not to even speak on it. We had a horrible case here in North Carolina back in 2018 that resulted in the loss of 4 lives. The father took his own life after he took the lives of 3 other people, and I'll probably revisit that and present it in a different video. But today I want to focus on 2 cases that's been in the news lately, and I want to encourage you to stick with me until the end so I can address a few questions and share some concerns. And our first case is coming out of the town of Erwin here in North Carolina. It's in Harnett County. And the news headline read, North Carolina father and daughter charged with incest. And the date of this reporting was December the 18th, 2025. And the focus of our story today is on 40-year-old Julius Grant Jackson, pictured here, and his 20-year-old daughter, Mackenzie Elizabeth Hicks, both of Erwin and living in the same address. Now, they have been charged with numerous felonies to include having a child together, which, by the way, is beyond suspicion. It's actually confirmed through DNA, and they both have been assigned some very, very hefty bonds. Now, when behaviors such as these are occurring, many people, especially in a home, many people already know about it or they suspect it, but still they remain silent. Now, I'm sure several individuals outside of this home knew what was taking place, but they failed to contact authorities. So our story begins back in the spring of 2024 when police began looking into the matter of a sexual relationship between Jackson, 40-year-old, and his daughter Mackenzie, and several people were interviewed by investigators at that time, to include Mackenzie. Now, at that time, she was 18. And she told investigators that her father, Jackson, had been sexually abusing her since she was 13 years old, so 5 years at that time he had been abusing her. But investigators could not get her to file formal charges because she stated she did not want him to go to jail. She didn't want him to get into trouble. Now, keep in mind, this disclosure probably did not come willingly. They probably had to pry that information out of her. And keep in mind, she was still living in the same residence after this report, and she probably had no place else to go. So this behavior had been going on for so long, it also probably had seemed rather routine. And she did not want to file charges because she did not want to get him in trouble. And I'm just wondering why, when police already had an admission from her, why they could not just go ahead and arrest him. September of 2024. It's 4 months after Mackenzie first told investigators what her father had been doing to her. So it's now September 2024, and the mother now contacts investigators to let them know that Mackenzie is pregnant after being molested by her father. The mother tells police she suspects that some of the actions between Mackenzie and Jackson were consensual. Imagine that, but I've got some words, some choice words for that mother. Okay. And it did not seem as if investigators did anything about it because nobody was ever charged and Mackenzie continued to live in the home. It was 12 months later before any action was taken. So now it's September of 2025, and there's a 6-month-old child in the picture now because Mackenzie had a baby boy, and he's now 6 months old. And a family member reported to police that Mackenzie's father, Jackson, is indeed the father of a 6-month-old child. And a few days later, police obtained a search warrant for evidentiary information in the home, and they was also able to get an order for DNA samples to be taken from Jackson, the alleged father, from Mackenzie, the mother, and the 6-month-old boy. And of course, the North Carolina State Lab verified that Jackson was indeed the father of his daughter's male child. So police now had the evidence they needed to make an arrest. Now we're finally in the month of December 2025, and the news probably had filtered out that an arrest was imminent. They probably had some advance warning because when police showed up at the home to make an arrest, Jackson fled in his truck, taking his daughter with him, resulting in a brief chase with police. I wonder if they took the baby with them. Well, they were running, you know, reports didn't say it, but they were running from police. So I wonder if they grabbed the baby and took the baby along. We're not sure. And when they were eventually apprehended, police found several high-powered loaded rifles in the vehicle. And of course, this all led to more charges against the two. And now that police had Jackson in custody, it looked as if they just threw the entire kitchen sink at him. They charged him with just about everything. They charged him with incest, committing a crime against nature, felony fleeing with a motor vehicle to evade arrest because he took off in his truck, committing a hit and run. Looks like they hit a few things on the way, leaving the scene of a crash with property damage, resisting a public officer, possessing a fictitious driver's license, and failing to stop for a stop sign or flashing red light. And when he appeared in court before a judge, he was issued a bond of $1.55 million. And of course, Mackenzie's daughter was also arrested and charged. She was charged with committing incest and committing a crime against nature. And when she appeared before a judge, she was assigned a bond of $1 million. And of course, there was immediate public outcry. People have been demanding answers. Why was Mackenzie given a bond of $1 million? Why was she even charged in the first place? It was just not making a lot of sense. A child violated by her father since she was 13 years old. Now, 7 years later, a child is born and she's still assigned a bond of $1 million. There is no question the child was groomed and abused by that father. Why was the mother not charged? You notice Mackenzie was not charged with a long list of things her father was, I guess because she was not driving the truck. But people just don't understand what the prosecutor was thinking. What does the prosecutor know that we don't know? But we could only speculate that once she reported the incident to the police back in 2024 and then failed to press charges, then she returned to the same environment and continued the same type of incestuous behavior. Now she's being held accountable for her own action. But then again, these are only assumptions. We can only speculate because investigators have been silent. And father and daughter are due back in court on January the 6th. And here's another case, but this case is coming out of Lee County in Sanford, North Carolina. And I wanted to speak about this because of the outcome. The incident, the arrest took place around August the 4th, but the date of this reporting was August the 27th, 2025. The news headline read, as before, North Carolina father and daughter charged with incest. And in this case, we're speaking about 50-year-old Clyde Lee Stone and his 18-year-old daughter Emily. Now, Clyde does look a bit older than 50, but the records say that he's 50. Now, both were charged with incest after warrant shows they were involved in a sexual relationship. Now, investigators say that back in June of last year, that Clyde Lee Stone did in fact engage in sex acts with his daughter. We're not exactly sure how they convinced that, but that's what the warrant shows. He was arrested on August the 8th, as I previously mentioned, and when he appeared in court, he was assigned a bond of $35,000. Now, let's face it, $35,000 just seemed a bit low, but then again, we've also seen bonds that were much lower. And keep in mind, his bond was a secured bond. And Emily, the 18-year-old daughter, she was also charged with incest for having a sexual relationship with her father. And when she appeared in court, she was issued a bond of $50,000, an unsecured bond of $50,000. Now, she was actually held for 2 months until she was released on October 30th. So 2.5 months she was really held in jail, and she was released. I guess she was finally able to make bond on October the 30th, 2025, and her next court date is scheduled for January the 19th, 2026. And once again, people want to know just what the heck is going on. Once again, we have questions. It's just something we simply don't understand. I'm sure this girl, this 18-year-old girl, was groomed by this man. And we don't know how many years this incestuous relationship has gone on, but somebody really needs to explain why. Why was she charged, and why was her bond higher than that of her father? His bond is at $35,000, but hers is set at $50,000. And so let's return to the father, Mr. Stone. He did not waste any time at all accepting a plea deal. He pled guilty to having a sexual relationship with his daughter. He didn't waste any time. He just went ahead and did it. And November 17th, he received his sentence. And here is the sentence: 19 to 32 months in prison. He gets credit for 3.5 months served. So the minimum is from 15.5 months to 32 months. No contact with the victim. He cannot live with a minor. He's directed to have a mental health assessment, and he was directed to pay us $70 in court cost. I have to tell you that his sentence is just a little bit hard for me to accept. And to be honest, it just gave me a headache. Why even bother? That's the question I'm asking. Why take up so much resources to get this man to arrest him, lock him up in jail, assign him a lawyer, work on a plea deal, all valuable resources, and then you make this sweetheart deal that will have him back on the streets in no time? What kind of lesson is being learned here? I really don't get it, because I bet he'll be out of jail in a few months because of overcrowding or for good behavior. He was definitely not gonna even do a year in jail. But it would be interesting to see what happens when Emily has her day in court around the middle of the month. And that's all I have for you right now, but feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video, and by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I want to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right hand corner of your screen. And if you click on the bell that looks like just like this one, that's the notification bell. If you click on that notification bell, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.